2025 has not been kind to the Philadelphia 76ers, and the 76ers haven't been kind to start off the year, getting completely embarrassed against the Golden State Warriors. We're going to break it all down because this was a very, very tough game.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago, and we're going to break everything down on what the heck just happened against the Golden State Warriors. But if you want to tune in to all things 76ers, you can find us on YouTube, on the Locked On Podcast Network, along with anywhere you listen to your podcast. And now you can also read about us in the free daily newsletter on lockedondaily.com. So make sure you go check that out today. And the NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season with strong $250 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Oh my, Keith, where do we even begin? 139 to 105. Steph Curry, for the first time in his career, makes 8 3-pointers without missing any. We tried to go for the record there, but he got subbed out with 7:30 left to go in the fourth quarter of action. I mean, did the 76ers forget they had a basketball game? I really don't understand. There was no effort out there. Nobody could come in big, especially in the first quarter. And anytime it seemed like the 76ers got into any type of momentum defensively, they just could not stop Steph Curry or anybody else on Golden State. I mean, to me, my takeaway is the 76ers, it was embarrassing for this team a night ago against Golden State.
You said no effort. I just think they're not that good. I mean, if we're going to be real with it, I mean, and again, you didn't have Kelly Oubre playing. You didn't have Jared McCain. He's out. You didn't have KJ Martin. I mean, and when you look at, I know some people might say, what do you mean with KJ? Like, KJ is an energy guy. He does stuff. He runs hard. He runs to the rim. Jared McCain was, a guy who was basically carrying him for a little bit. And then you have Kelly Oubre, who's a pretty good, perimeter defender. He gets deflections, right? So you take those three out there. You go to Golden State. They come out with this lineup where you have Kyle Lowry running the point guard position. And the 76ers just couldn't get a basket early on. I mean, they shot 7 for 21 in the first quarter. And they shot 0 for 7 on threes. They had 5 turnovers. Joel Embiid had 4 points on 2 for 6 shooting. Maxey had 5 points on 1 for 4. And Paul George had 2 on 1 for 3. And then when you look at it, we go and you turn it around and you see what Golden State was doing. And they made 7 of 11 threes, shooting 63.6% on threes. And they shot 59.1% from the field. So when we say like it wasn't really a lot of effort, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, the person who didn't really give a lot of effort, to be honest with you, early on was Joel, right? But aside from that, they just didn't have it. I feel like the rotations in the game was had me a little mind-boggling. I mean, and I like Jeff Doughton. I think he's he is what he is, a two-way player. But you have Eric Gordon, a guy who had a pretty good half yesterday, of 3 quarters. He played well, but Jeff Doughton is getting minutes over him. Gershon Yabusele was balling coming off the bench, but he didn't play a lot. And Kyle, I love Kyle, but he just wasn't bringing it. So I don't think the team is that good right now. And also, I think the coaching, the rotations was a little suspect early on.
It really was. And listen, I have the opportunity to cover Jeff at the Blue Coast level too. And anytime that I could say, hey, get Jeff Doughton in there, I'm already saying, because I like what he could do at the Blue Coast level. But Nick Nurse, come on now. I mean, what are you doing with that rotation? going up against Golden State. I mean, this team just wasn't ready, and Joel Embiid starting things off a little bit of lackluster. And I know people will say, oh, we're talking negative about Joel Embiid. He had a night off, right? He had a night off. So you sit him in the back-to-back against the Kings, which the 76ers completely handed that win to the Sacramento Kings. And then they come out, you would think that they would come out against the Warriors wanting to get out there, wanting to come back from that loss that they had last night. No, they were truly playing on a back-to-back, and you could really see that kind of set in. I mean, it just seemed like nothing was clicking once again. And you start off 2025 completely downhill. And right now, the 76ers team, I feel like they get too high on their highs and really low on their lows, right? You beat the Boston Celtics, that's great. But ever since then, it's like, okay, now what are they doing? Why can't they figure it out? Why does nothing continue? There is no consistency with this team, and it is continuing to hurt them. I know Steph Curry is the best shooter of all time. There's absolutely no doubting that. But the defense was horrible. Offensively, they couldn't get things to work. The rotations, that's the coach's fault, where it's also very, very bad. So, Keith, nothing is connecting right now. And we're talking about a team that had a glimpse of hope going out at the end of December. And now these are games you were supposed to win in January before your really tough schedule in January. And they are just dropping them like flies.
Well, I think you're giving them a little bit too much credit. I mean, and what I mean by that is I just think that they're not a good team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they played Golden State, they played Portland, who are not only two of the worst teams in the Western Conference, they're arguably two of the worst teams in the league, right? That Boston Celtics win, and I think we all got swept away with that one. But Boston is in a little bit of a rut right now, right? And I feel like that these two now they can still go 4-2 on this road trip, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we said that probably go 4-2. Now, but we also felt like that they could probably go 5-1. They would split one of the two games. And what happened? Joel Embiid didn't play yesterday. I'm talking about 2 days ago against Sacramento. You go up against an all-star center who was a beast. And then you also go up against a pretty good point guard. And then you come back the next night and you play Golden State, who have one of the all-time greats and Steph Curry. And it just seems like the 76ers just aren't that good. And when I talk about Embiid, Embiid did get his points, but I felt like there were a couple plays on the defensive end where he did not like hustle, right? At times. Also, I felt like now he did make he did make some middies, but I felt like when you have a guy like Draymond, guarding you, you have some other people. When you're Joel Embiid, you're the biggest, baddest thing. You got to post guys up, and he wasn't doing that. So that's what I meant by that. But as far as like this and that, I just look like as dumb as a team that they just don't have it. They don't. I mean, Maxey struggled a little bit shooting the ball. Paul George was okay. He struggled again. I just feel, and Embiid, when Embiid knew he wasn't coming out in the third quarter, I mean, after coming back after the third quarter, what did he do? He started scoring and getting to the foul line. It looked like he was more or less padding his stats. I just don't think that now they could get better, but at this particular time, I feel like this was a true barometer, this back to back.
Mm-hmm.
They may go to Brooklyn and win, but guess what? This Brooklyn team is a fire sale right now, and they're trying to get rid of everybody.
Right.
So to me, I just look at it as if we're going to be real, the 76ers just aren't that good right now. They play in the weak East, so they're
Right.
going to elevate.
They have
But
that in their favor. Yeah.
they're just not that good right now.
I think the biggest thing that I look at and my biggest takeaway too is they look really bad. On top of that, it's not even just losses that, oh, they were close. It was down to the wire. The Kings, they had that game in the bag and they truly gave it away. Yeah, it was down to the wire at the end because they let the Kings come back and win the ball game. That is just how it completely went. And then against the Warriors, it was like, well, the 76ers must have got stuck on the plane or something, or they didn't get a wake up call because I don't know where this team was, but it definitely wasn't out there competing on the floor. So
They're just not that good,
overall,
Kayla.
they're
I
I
mean,
I
again, you
I
giving them
know
you
they're
giving
they're
them credit.
not
You
they're
giving
not
them
I
credit.
know.
You're
But
giving them
you've
credit. I
seen
mean,
some
they just.
pops. You've
I
seen
mean,
some
like,
pops.
here's the deal. You got okay. We go over the starting lineups, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we're going to be real, let's go back. Let's go over this starting lineup. So you have let me see. Can I find it real quick? Okay, so you got Andrew Wiggins, right? You got Draymond. You got this guy Jackson Davis. You have Schroeder. You have Curry, right? So let me just say this. So you got Steph Curry, Tyrese Maxey. Who you taking?
Steph Curry, why not?
All right. Okay. Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Lowry at this particular point.
Well,
Who you got?
definitely not Kayla. Definitely not
Oh,
Kayla.
okay. So then you got Joel Embiid, Jackson Davis. I'm taking Joel.
Right.
So then you got Draymond against Caleb Martin. I'm going with Draymond.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got PG against Wiggins. Well, PG is, PG, you got to give him the slight edge. But then coming off the bench, right? You got to give PG the slight edge. But is Wiggins is a player. Well, so then
Yes.
we're talking
Yes.
about, well, but okay, now we're going to come off the bench. The six man, Reggie Jackson. They had Jonathan what's his Kamunga? Yeah,
Kuminga. Jonathan
yeah,
Kuminga.
Kaminga.
Yeah,
I'm
he was
just
lighting it
putting.
up too. Everybody
Yeah, that's what I'm
was.
saying. Jonathan Kaminga, right? So then, you got, Buddy Hill, Moody, while they had Yabu, and then they had Council, right? And then Jeff Doughton. So you look at it, we're talking about a guy, like, let's be real now. We're talking about guys right now. You got Kyle Anderson and Kevon Looney, who are out of the rotation. These would be two guys who would be the sixth and seventh man, if not Kyle Anderson starting for the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would start for the Sixers. So when we look at it, it's just that their roster isn't as good as the Golden State Warriors. And the problem is, this is a Warriors team that has been struggling, and the Sixers got exposed. And you don't have any perimeter defenders out there guarding a team that we all know that they like shooting the three. So that's the problem. I know we make it seem like they were flat, they were this, they were that. They're going to say that too. Nah, they suffered their worst loss of the season because couldn't match the other team's talent. And it's bad when your second best player, Tyrese Maxey, goes 4 for 13, and then your third best player goes 7 for 12. But let's face it, it wasn't even that close. Like, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
sounds good, but it really wasn't that good.
So who do we put the blame on now, right? Because we look at this team, they're constructed not great. Trades are being buzzed all around the league right now. Do we start looking at the top up and Daryl Morey? Because Nick Nurse's rotations are absolutely horrible, but he could do better too. But at the same time, is he really just trying everything that he can? Now, I don't think Jeff Downs should be on the floor as early as he is either. But at this point, do you start looking at Daryl Morey saying, what type of team did you construct right now when you're getting exposed against teams like the Warriors, and this continues to happen for the squad this year?
Yeah, that's a tough. I mean, a lot of people are going to kill Daryl Morey for that. But unfortunately, when you go out there and you get three max players,
Mm-hmm.
right? You basically can get what you can afford. And when you look at it, what could they afford? Well, they could afford a bunch of minimum salary dues. So you look at it, okay, Reggie Jackson, minimum salary dude. He won the championship. He's known for scoring points. Okay, let's give him a chance. Okay, the same thing with Eric Gordon. So yeah, you can say that I'm a I'm a basically blame him, Daryl Morey, but at the same time, he got high profile minimum salary dudes. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the gamble was everybody said they needed a third star. Well, they went out and got a third star. And when you do that, this is where you are. I mean, if you look at the Golden State Warriors, they don't really have a third star. They have Steph Curry and they have Draymond. And some people might say Draymond's not a superstar. He's not like the max type of dude, So what they do is they got a lot of young guys around them, young core pieces, where the 76ers went out and got veterans who they feel like can help you win a championship. So we can blame Daryl Morey, but at the same time, he could only get what he could afford.
I think this team is worse constructed than it was last year, and that's crazy saying it without Paul George because you had guys like Nico Batum. You had Tobias Harris in there, who, let's be honest right now, when you look at the numbers, Paul George isn't doing that much better at this moment, which is crazy and insane to think about. But right now, Keith, I mean, there is no answer for this team when you look at going forward. The only answer is Joel Embiid staying healthy, and he might have had 28 points, but you're absolutely right. He goes and he shoots for the foul and he's going to the line and he's getting buckets that way and he's stat padding. He also is taking his mask off, which is so frustrating during when he's up and down the court. But this team, I mean, they're constructed really badly. Before we move on to our next segment, because we're kind of on a roll here, trades are being talked about. They're the big conversation in the NBA right now. We've touched on before, the 76ers probably really don't have enough to be able to get anybody really valuable without giving somebody valuable away. But at this point, if there's any chance for this team, do you think they need to go out and get a piece that maybe could help elevate them, especially with McCain not coming back till possibly playoffs or later than that?
Yeah, but what do you have to trade? That's
Not
the
much.
thing. Like,
Not
that's
much.
the thing. For a key piece. I mean, I think what's going to happen is like they'll go out and get something, but I mean it's probably going to be, a rotation type of
Mhm.
player, someone that's going to help them out that way. Because like really, like the only asset that they have is, oh man, I mean, like that. I think Tyrese Maxey is the best asset they have, and you
Yeah,
ain't
they're
trying
not
to get rid
trading
of
him.
him.
Nah.
And then
Mm-mm.
you could say, like, Jared McCain is hurt, maybe him, like, but I mean, before he was injured, I just don't see it. I don't see them going out there and getting places or getting people like Jimmy Butler. So, what are you going to say to Miami? Okay, well, Jimmy Butler didn't work, but we'll give you Paul George. I mean, how do you think Miami's going to take that? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right. Paul
Like,
George should be Butler straight up. Come on now.
yeah,
Yeah,
like if
no.
unless it's Tyrese Maxey, we're not talking. You know what I mean? That's just how it
Mm-hmm.
is, right? That's how it goes. So, it's kind of like, the trade thing is cool, and who knows, they can do one, but let's be 100. Like the trades that they made recently, like Buddy Hield, he didn't pan out like a couple other people. So, we get all excited and say, let's do this, let's do that, but they really didn't pan out, in my opinion. None of them. No, I mean, they didn't. They haven't. Like the trades that they made recently did not pan out. None of them.
It seems like even somebody like Buddy Hield will come to the Sixers and then not play well and then go somewhere else and play well. It seems like pieces, they just don't have enough time to filter them in and get them in the system. But right now, whatever pieces they have, they're not connecting. There's no puzzle going on. We're missing pieces of this puzzle. So the 76ers, they truly got exposed. I mean, that could be our biggest takeaway here, right? Because 139 to 105 is showing you that this team is not going to compete. And the only luck they have right now is that the Eastern Conference is not that competitive. That is the only luck that they have right now that they could possibly get into playing contention. But once you get in there, if you face a team like the Celtics, the Knicks, so on and so forth, well, good luck, because I don't think there's a lot of people that can realistically say that this team can compete against any of the top dogs in the East right now. They just can't. They look bad and they are bad. So I do agree with you on that one. I still think that they have no effort or anything like that, and they still fell asleep. And at the end of the day, they're playing like a team that doesn't need to win games. And that is definitely frustrating to look at and overview as well. So we'll wait and see what the 76ers continue to do. We're going to keep on this track here. We're going to look at some numbers on the lack of production that the 76ers really just weren't able to give last night in that game against the Warriors. So we'll be back in just a moment. And make sure you check out FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more action on FanDuel. When you place your first $5 bet, that's at FanDuel.com. So one team in Philadelphia is doing pretty well, and the Eagles on the gridiron. Now they are going to sit Saquon Barkley, so he won't be able to go for the true record but they are preparing for the playoffs. They take on the Giants, and right now they still are favored in that game against a very bad New York team, -2.5. So if you want to hit that line right now and you think that's exactly what it's going to be without Saquon Barkley and other starters, make sure you go check it out today. And once again, that's -2.5, and the odds do change throughout the day. This one has been pretty stable, but if you want to hit that -2.5 before it comes around for some action between the Eagles and the Giants, make sure you do. That's America's #1 sports book. Be sure to visit FanDuel today to place all of your sports bets. There's no better place than FanDuel to do so. Curry just kept on hitting it for this team. So the 76ers, their numbers just keep dropping, and it seems like they just really can't play together right now. This Paul George, this Tyrese Maxey, this Joel Embiid trio, a lot of iso ball, a lot of guys trying to do a little bit of everything. Nothing is in cohesion right now, and the numbers are truly starting to show.
Well, I think the one thing that they need to do a better job of, the numbers are showing. But, in the third quarter, it became like it was evident that Joel Embiid wanted to get his numbers, right?
Right.
It became evident. I would have preferred in that third quarter to see how you guys are going to incorporate everyone and play together. I mean, if we look at this third quarter, the 76ers shot the ball 19 times. Embiid had 10 of them. Paul George had one shot attempt. Tyrese Maxey had one shot attempt, right? And when we look at it, yes, Embiid played the entire third quarter, but Paul George played 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Tyrese Maxey played 8 minutes and 22 seconds, right? So to me, when we talk about it now, again, Embiid made 6 of 9 free throws. He scored 15 points. He scored 15 out of 25. But if you know that the game is over because they were getting blown out at that point, right? If you know the game is over, it's one of those things where, okay, let's work on some things and try to get these guys together. Let's mesh. Let's do it. Because how does Reggie Jackson have more shots, 2 shots? He shot 1 for 2 than Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. How does Caleb Martin, who had 3 shot attempts, have more shots than those 2 guys, right? So it's crazy. And then another thing is and I get it. Yabu, he was balling in the first half. He only had 1 shot attempt in the third quarter. Gordon, the sharpshooter, only had 1. So to me, it's kind of like, yeah, they can't get it together, but it's like they have to start sacrificing all of them. You got to get the 3 of you guys in and mesh well together, because what we keep hearing is at practice, they incorporate people. But when the game comes on, we don't see that anymore.
I think that's a good quote for them to say for people not to worry, because it's not working in practice if it ain't working in the game at all. We haven't seen this trio work once this season. Now, granted, once again, they haven't played a lot together, and I get that, but you're talking about 3 all-star players. You're talking about 3 really good players as well. 76ers scored 0 points in the final 7-11 of the game in the third quarter, besides Joel Embiid. So people looking at that without watching the game might say, okay, well, nobody else clearly was making any production. No, Joel took after what Tyrese was trying to do last night and try to play hero and iso ball when the 76ers are down by 20 points. It just doesn't make sense. And Joel Embiid, listen, I know he gets fouled and he foul baits a lot, though. Consistently, when you're sitting there and you're analyzing the game, you say, he's not even going for the shot. He feels contact and then he throws the ball up. And sometimes he's going to get that call, but that's not all what you can be looking for. That gives no momentum with the team. And you clearly saw that. And then with 9 minutes left, they give up. They put a Dembona in and everything just goes completely to waste for this team. So I look at it right now. There's such a lack of production for this team and for everybody involved. Keith, is it too early to say that this trio is not going to work? Because I said originally I would wait a little bit longer, but why are we going to iso ball? Why are we having this one-man band of whoever needs to take over? The 76ers cannot figure it out. So do you have an analysis right now if this is not working, or do you still give it more time to see if it can?
I mean, I think you still have to give it some time. I mean,
Hmm.
you do. I mean, what was it? Tonight was their ninth game playing
Yeah.
together. But what happens is, again, people got to sacrifice. It's like, do you want to win the scoring title or do you want to win games? You
Yeah.
have to get everybody involved. And that's the problem when you have three type of all-star type players, especially when two of them are used to being the man or even the first or second option. So it's hard to go to the third. So I feel like you can easily say I'm gonna give up on it, but right now they got too much invested. They only played 9 games together, started 9 games together. So I think you still have to give it a try. You have to. You do. You really do. I mean, especially you want to wait to see what Jared McCain looks like when he comes back, whether it be
Yeah.
this year or next year. Other guys when they get healthy, just to see how it's going to work.
It's been a wash of a new year for the 76ers, though. They have really struggled in their first two games at the new year, but we're going to touch on a little bit more when we come back in just a moment. First, we do have to tell you about game time. Going to a game in person is so much fun. It is one of my favorite things. I love to give gifts for my family and my friends as well. If they have an opportunity to go to a live game, whatever that may be. And the best source to do it is through the game timeout. That's exactly how I do it each and every time, no matter what sport it is, NFL, NBA, and everything in between. So make sure you go check out Game Time today. They have so many different deals. And if you want to experience the atmosphere of the crowd, you can get super deals or you can get the greatest value, which is at the top 1%. And nobody does that like Game Time. You have an opportunity to see the best deals before you buy, and there is no joke to them whatsoever. They are the real deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, make an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code Locked On NBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today because what time is it? It is game time. All right. Before we send things off here, Keith, what does this team need to do to try and figure it out? Because they look bad right now. They are a bad team. We've seen some glimpse of pop and them click a little bit, but the big three really hasn't clicked. What do they need to do to try to figure this out going forward? Because they are playing like they have games to lose. And honestly, they really do not.
You know what? I think one thing they got to get healthy. I mean, we
Mm.
talked about it before. You got to learn how to play together. I mean, that's the one thing. But the main thing is they need to shore up their perimeter defense. I mean, that's something that's been torching them all year. And
Yeah.
and and because we look at it, they were just giving up threes like they were layups. I mean, it was just easy. Everyone was torching them. Like all the guys from the for the most part was launching threes. I mean, they made 22 of 40 of 39 threes, right? They had 42 assists. They had 42 assists on 53 made shots. So that's telling you that they had perfect ball movement against the Sixers. But that's the one thing the Sixers have to do a better job of that. They need a more improved point guard play, right? And I just feel like they just got exposed. Like they can move. Now, here's the thing: they're going to win games
Yeah.
because they're playing in the East where it's kind of like struggling. But we talked about this in a couple of weeks. This stuff is about to get real. From the
Mm-hmm.
midpoint of January through up into the All-Star break, the 76ers are going to be in a dogfight with teams. And the way they look today, it looked like a team that has no continuity. No one's trying to get continuity. Um, and guys are taking bad shots. And, like, I guess they got to be coached. They have to be, they got to try to gel, come together. But right now, it just looks like they're getting exposed against good teams.
That they are, and that was a season high 42 assists as well for the Warriors. So it seems like every team that has a good night, that it's the season high or a team high, it's happening against the Philadelphia 76ers. There's no cohesion, there's no consistency with this team, and they really got to figure it out. They play the Nets coming up next here on Saturday at 6 p.m., but it has been a completely embarrassing past 2 games for the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's a wait and see game. We're going to see how this big three continues to play together. But right now, they don't look good. And they're lucky that they're in the Eastern Conference, because the East is not the best side of things right now. And they do have a chance to try to get up there because of the lack of competition in the Eastern Conference. And they fall last night 139 to 105. The 76ers, they got exposed. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this game, how you're feeling about the 76ers, if you think they should make a trade, if you still believe in this team, whatever it may be, let us know in the comments, because right now the real deal is they got exposed and they do not look good. Once again, your final 139 to 105 for Keith Pompey. I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long on Locked On 76ers, and thanks so much for tuning in.